Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agence de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is Tempo Africa TV with multiple and diverse programs for all you need, all of you around the globe. Please tune in and immerse yourselves in whatever you need to know about the continent we know best. I'm Prof. Desiree Balubi, linguist and communication specialist at Norfolk State University in Virginia, USA. Welcome to our weekly show, What's Up Africa, Que fait l'Afrique? Our guest today is Dr. Ikechi Agbuba, a native of Nigeria, currently in Birmingham, North Alabama, but the United Kingdom. He's a university professor with expertise in multiple areas, but we're focusing tonight on his expertise in agricultural economics and agricultural marketing. He's also an agribusiness activist and researcher. The topic we're about to discuss is sustainable agriculture and development in Africa. Hopefully by the end of this interview, our viewers will know or will better understand what sustainable agriculture is, what it entails, and how it can impact development positively in Africa. Welcome to the show, Dr. Agbuba.
Thank you very much, Professor Balubi. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Our first question to you, Dr. Agbuba. We hear this all the time, sustainable agriculture, sustainable everything. What is sustainable agriculture, Dr. Agbuba?
Thank you for the question and also the opportunity. Sustainable agriculture is the same thing as sustainable farming. First of all, can we look at the whole idea of sustainability? What is sustainability?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, because most persons have actually been talking about, like, sustainability, sustainable development goals, SDGs, and all of that, and they have failed to focus and hinge on agriculture because sustainability in farming is quite important. Well, can I say that sustainable farming has to do with a system of cultivation of crops, rearing of livestock or rearing of farm animals, and also managing of forests and cultivating of fishery and aquatic environment in a way that the produce from the farm, the produce from agriculture will be over time, available over time. So every practice, every activity which is, like friendly to cultivation, like even it touches areas on building an effective ecosystem. Yeah, because of course, to cultivate, you need to have land. And you need to have soil.
Right.
And also, the crops, um, the livestock, depending on the aspect of agriculture. The agriculture sector is quite broad. The agriculture sector is majorly comprised of crops, livestock, forestry, and fisheries subsector. And these sectors have their own percentage contribution to the GDP of any nation. And aside that, I can also talk about sustainability in line with having a system. Like sustainability tells us about a system, an efficient ecosystem. Biodiversity comes in as well. And every activity which is unfriendly to farming must be removed to its barest minimum. So that's just it. So let me just also talk about talk about sustainability with respect to long term, and not just a short term thing. Long term initiative with respect to, like, there are many initiatives which are being practiced now, which talks about sustainability, especially how can I talk about food, sustainable agriculture without mentioning food security? Because of course, food security is a concept which is broken down to majorly 4 pillars, and then the 4th pillar tells us that sustainability is very important. So it's a long-term practice, which practices with respect to crop rotation, increased use of perennial species, and the integration of livestock in pasture, and also range-based systems. So, like I had mentioned, that it's something that also technology has come in to drive sustainability, as it were.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. I know, Dr. Agbuba, this is something you do on a daily basis. Even when you're sleeping, you're thinking about how can we do this better? How can this, and you have so many questions. And as a researcher, starting with your questions, you are investigating and providing answers. And thank you for doing all of that. You teach this at the university level, and I know you're part and parcel of the faculty of the Indian Ocean Sciences at the University of the State of the African Diaspora. But how do you break this down when we're talking about sustainability of agriculture or farming? How do you break this down in simple terms, in the layperson's terms, so that our farmers, most of whom have never been to school, they've never taken any, attended any lecture. My understanding is that is the how to and how not to, and yet our people have been doing this for ages. How do you break it down? And you mentioned technology, et cetera, but they've been doing this manually. Please break this down, and then combine it with my second question, which is about economics. How do we define agricultural economics? Okay, for a farmer who is in the rural areas in Ifanyi or in let's say Buake or everywhere on the continent. Okay, producing cocoa, producing coffee, so on and so forth. So go ahead, Dr. Agbuba. Everybody wants to understand today. They want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Balubi, for making it very, to look, painting the question very nicely. Well, like I had mentioned about sustainability, the sustainability is more like having a system. Like most people who are from Africa, they always want to migrate to the developed countries because they look at their system and they say that they have a very nice system. And sadly, for me, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I'm a full-blooded African. I grew up in a university environment in Africa, and I earned my PhD, I did my postdoc, everything in Africa. So I can tell you that sustainability has to do with system. And now we are talking about agriculture. And then sustainability is all about equity among and between generations. We are talking of generations of people who are in the space of agriculture, especially smallholder farmers. We know that Africa is comprised majorly of smallholder farmers, and smallholder farmers are the ones who are driving transformation in the sector. They are the ones ensuring that there is food. They are the ones ensuring that there is raw materials for industry, which are all aspects of the contributions of the agricultural sector to the growth of an economy. Now, it's also the same agriculture sector that has, over time, largely created jobs. So it has potential for job creation.
Right.
Yeah, and not just what the youth of Africa have always looked at it from, a wrong perception. So there's a perception problem with respect to agriculture. So, but we are talking about sustainability, and we have diverse aspects of agriculture. Can I talk about organic agriculture? Because organic agriculture is what we can actually, it's what persons, there is high demand for organic products, organic produce from agriculture. Now, organic agriculture, which is an aspect of agriculture that is highly sustainable. Why am I talking about that now? Because it contributes to the social well-being by reducing the losses of arable soil, water contamination, and the biodiversity erosion as well, and also greenhouse gas emissions, and food losses and pesticide poisoning.
Right.
And of course, we have seen that that Africa is so blessed with diverse agro resources, from every aspect. Of course, we know that the agriculture sector is a primary sector. It's not just a primary sector, it's a traditional sector. And it's a real sector of which every other aspect of every other sector depends on the agriculture sector to run. So so it's really something that has to be corrected. There has to be, like I was telling them the other day, that I call it brain re-engineering. That is my own concept about changing the face of agriculture, because agriculture is a sector that can drive sustainability. And okay, now talking about how we've been having lots of issues in Africa with respect to environment. We are actually losing out in the environment. And now we are talking about economics. You mentioned economics now.
Yes.
And now economics of agriculture is all about how do we partition the profits, like what you put in and what you get in, as well as someone who is coming in to invest in agriculture. Now, many farmers have committed their resources. They have, spent a lot of money to acquire land, lands, to acquire seeds, inputs, and all of that, whatever inputs that they are using. And after a while, they are not having a commensurate return or commensurate margin of what they had committed their resources to. Of course, there's a budget the budget that they have drawn, because they are, we have like very about 30% large-scale farmers in the whole of Africa. That tells us that majorly smallholder farmers are the ones in Africa. And now we are talking about how to earn a living, how to drive livelihoods of nations. And of course, we need to understand that Africa is broken down majorly into two major parts. Northern Africa, which is only five countries of Northern Africa, and we have 54 countries of Sub-Saharan Africa. So Sub-Saharan Africa is where the large population is, from. Now, can I say that Libya, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria are the ones in the Northern African country. The rest, the ECOWAS region, the Eastern African region, the SADC, which is the Southern African Development Community countries, and then the joining of the Central Africa as well.
Right.
And what of the combination of the some like in South Africa, where I lived before, and I know in that region. So we need to understand these dimensions. We need to understand all of this when we are. Depend on rain-fed agriculture. So irrigation is now, irrigation is, of course, it's cost, it's cost intensive for them. So, and what about tractorization? For tractors, having tractors to cultivate the land, that is also a challenge because most, there is high price of tractors and they are all in the fixed cost with land and some of these equipments that can stand for a while. But what of the variable costs? So we are talking about economics of agriculture. So we need to actually extrapolate some of these items properly and now see how to cut down costs and then maximize revenue, maximize the margins, because we need to also understand the food supply chain. We need to understand the channel of distribution from the producer, that is the farmer, down to the middle. And we know that the crop subsector that there are more than even the crops that are grown. Well, that's also a very good thing for Africa. So Africa is a continent that is quite vested, quite blessed. We are so blessed with diverse agricultural. You cannot really. Can I say this, please? Can I say this?
Yes.
We cannot really fathom. We cannot really fathom the extent of agro resources that we have, the potentials that Africa has in the aspect. Actually, every crop that grows in Africa has the potential to combat malnutrition.
Very good.
It has, because we have also most of the crops. Why haven't we done well? We are talking about economics of agriculture. Why is it that we are not improving on value addition? We are not doing much in processing. And that is where the chunk of the revenue comes in.
Very good.
That is where we can develop products from agriculture.
Dr. Aguba, just a minute. Sorry to jump in here and talk to our viewers and viewers all over the world and all over the continent and beyond, even in the diaspora. Those of you who are actually investing into farming projects, okay, animal husbandry projects, or anything related to agriculture, as you know, our economies, all those countries' economies in Africa are based on agriculture. So this is the man, this is the person to ask questions so that you get a hint of what is going on. And Dr. Abuba, coming back to you, based on what you're saying, it's this thing is it depends on nature, depends on what we're talking about. You know, been talking about climate change or the environment, etc. We're also talking about human behavior, human activity, and all those things impact agriculture, don't they? So I'm just this taking me to this question about policies and politics. Shouldn't there be clear-cut policies and politics about all of this so that we know the how to, how not to, what we should, what we shouldn't, and how everything we're doing actually can positively impact not just our lives, but development in general, development as a huge term. Dr. Aguba.
Wow, such an interesting question. Thank you very much, Professor Balubi. Can I also tell you that a lot is being done in that? In fact, I co-founded an initiative with some persons across Africa, and it's actually called Global Agricultural Policies and Politics from an African perspective.
Yeah.
And we started it last year. It's an initiative that came out of Agri-Food Networks. And agriculture sector. We need to understand that, well, most of the sectors, like I had pointed out, that they have their contribution to the GDP, and GDP is a proxy for measuring economic growth. And of course, economic growth, any economic growth that does not trickle down to development will not be sustainable in that dimension. Because when you know, like if you ask me now, economic growth and development, which one are they the same? They are not really the same. Sometimes they can be the same at some point, but they are not the same because, of course, economic growth has to do with quantity and the quantity of resources, quantity of goods and services and all of that. You know, quantity of, you know, like, okay, the GDP, when you look at the GDP, you can say, okay, this economy has grown. But we are not now talking of GDP, we are talking of the quality of life. So
Yes.
every policy will focus on sustainability, that is improving the quality of lives of people through the agriculture sector.
Yes.
Has to be encouraged. And for me, I can tell you that the governments of Africa, we are still playing, except for some countries like Rwanda, Ghana, Uganda. We can't pick them. I want to reckon that South Africa has done well as well, even though in the SADC. Yeah, they are doing well. I know Botswana is also trying, even though their government is quite strong. Like, you know, they produce, you know, they are blessed with diamonds and all of that. And so, but, you know, before, they are not like flexible like many of the African countries. Kenya is also trying. Yeah, Nigeria is trying. Yeah, some countries are trying in Africa, but you know, the government has neglected agriculture so much, and they are busy paying lip service. We are not coming. Okay, now that we are in the era of technology, and we are talking about policy, so every policy that will encourage smallholder farmers, that will encourage farmers, that will bring about creating more avenues for them to acquire land. And not just to acquire, okay, we know that for example, in South Africa, we know that the farmers during the apartheid regime, they were dispossessed of the lands. During, of course, this is not new, that, even now, when, policies on land reform policy and all of that, so, we will have restitution, land restitution, land redistribution, and, all those reform policies, so that the smallholder farmers will be able to navigate their way and produce more, earn a living, and keep producing more. We know that there is disparity between the large-scale farmers in South Africa and the smallholder farmers. The large-scale farmers can be found in West. From production to distribution. Yes, because the whole idea, you cannot just produce and leave it there. Policies has to come in, food policies that will help to protect the citizens. Farmers are supposed to be encouraged, not just farmers, also the consumers as well. For example, producing substandard products and producing,